Hello, everybody, and welcome to Comms First today, day 3. We've got a great session today, direct routing versus Microsoft calling plan with Peter Ryan. We are going to take questions today at the end, so if you have questions, go ahead and put them in the Q&A area, and we will answer those at the end of today's call. Thanks for being here, and Peter, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks a lot. Afternoon, everyone, and welcome. My name is Pete Ryan, and I'm the Head of Business Development for ZapHappy. My talk today is around the options for enabling telephony within Teams, and hopefully we'll show how direct routing as a service can provide cost and functionality benefits above and beyond what calling plans are capable of. So I understand there's probably going to be telecoms resellers and customers in the audience, so I'm trying to keep this relevant for everyone, but happy to engage on a more one-to-one level in the breakout area afterwards. So without further ado, let's get started. So a little bit about ZapHappy. Our ethos is that we firmly believe everyone should be able to create something unique and that services their needs and that of their customers. Ben Merrills founded the company in 2013, originally as a SIP applications platform, which allowing customers to create diverse telecom products which were not carrier dependent. However, we quickly learned that our main customers were telecoms companies or telecoms resellers. So as a result, we expanded our product portfolio and included more traditional telephony products like SIP trunking. This now includes direct routing as a service. Apart from myself, we're mostly developers with a strong background in telecommunications as well as API and automation. And together we have a combined 50 years experience in communications and internet services. We strongly believe in automation of systems. We automate as many systems as we can, and we make sure that automation plays a key role in our products and services as well. So I'd like to make a quick shout out to our fellow Commsverse sponsors. We're in the third day. I'm sure you agree it's been a great experience. If you haven't already, I would really recommend checking out the VR exhibition, which is a must-see. And of course, please feel free to drop into our ZapHappy booth to have a chat with myself or one of my colleagues. So what do I want to cover today? Well, we're going to start with setting the scene. So we'll go through MS Teams, a very brief overview, and we'll touch on the impact of COVID-19 and what that had on the shift to online collaboration and early adoption. We'll have a review of the Teams licensing and a deeper dive into the calling plans. And then I'd like to bring direct routing into the discussion, how it can bridge the gap in functionality, assist with longer transitional plans, and provide cost benefits. And then we'll compare and contrast these two options and run through a customer scenario. Finally, we'll talk through the areas that I would recommend as a reseller or business you may want to consider when finding a supplier to meet direct routing requirements. So to kick things off a little bit, let's just have a look at how we got here with Teams. So in 2016, Microsoft were looking to launch a bid for Slack, a collaboration hub, but actually decided to place more focus on Skype for business improvement. That led to MS Teams being officially launched in Q3 of 2017, and following on from that, direct routing was announced by Microsoft in late 2018. So we immediately saw this had potential and an opportunity represented, and it led to ZapHappy beginning full development on direct routing solution late in 2018, early 2019. Now, as an early adopter, we recognised that the provisioning process was a big hurdle for anyone who's not technically capable. So this became a key focus during the development process, and we launched our fully automated product earlier this year. So if you haven't already, I know many of you have, feel free to pop over to our booth for a demo. We're here for the rest of the afternoon. Finally, by the end of 2019, Microsoft announced that there were 20 million daily active users on Microsoft Teams, and they showcased it as one of their most successful products. So then we moved to 2020. COVID-19 really began making an impact on business as usual practices at the start of the year. By May, Teams had grown to 75 million daily active users as remote working became the norm worldwide. And it's extremely likely they're going to pass 80 million users in June. In April alone, Microsoft reported 4.1 billion meeting minutes, and in a single day, 200 million meeting participants. What does that actually tell us? Well, due to COVID-19, change was instigated by a societal event rather than being vision-led, which meant that businesses had to adapt. And it's fair to say not only have how we interact has also changed this year, but acceptable business etiquette may have changed as well. So I'm going to warn everyone right now, it's pretty much 50-50 that my children will interrupt me in this presentation, so just be prepared for that. But what did this mean for businesses? Well, it actually did one thing. It lessened resistance to change because end users had to embrace early adoption, and from a business perspective, the event forced them to think about remote working and place it at the top of the agenda. So due to these events, as a business, you may now be looking to change to a cloud-based environment. So how can direct routing as a service help you achieve that new vision or goal? Let's take a look. So as a business, you're invested in the team.
To receive phone calls to PSTN. For that, you'll need either a Microsoft product, which is a calling plan, which enables the access, or you'll need direct routing, which is basically a link from Teams to a session border controller, allowing customers to choose their own telecoms providers and to enable their users to make and receive calls in Teams.
So we'll start off by looking at licensing and then delve a little bit deeper into calling plans. So I think everyone will agree that Microsoft licensing is extremely easy to manage and to understand. As you can see, E5 licenses are the only licenses to have a phone system as part of their product. So immediately there will be an uplift in cost for adding phone system onto any other licenses. And you don't get any calling plans with any E licenses or 365 licenses. You don't get any bundles at all. However, business voice licenses are aimed at the SME market. These include both phone system and audio conferencing, plus 1,200 UK domestic calling plans. However, it will require a Microsoft 365 subscription that includes Microsoft Teams. So there's a bit of give and take there. The most important thing in regards to direct routing is that you're able to actually decouple the calling plan from the business voice license for a cheaper cost, which makes it quite a useful component for resellers and customers alike. Okay, so we've dealt with the licensing. We know what we need in regards to phone system. So let's have a look how the calling plans match up. So I'm going to be using the UK calling plans as a reference. Obviously, they are available in other countries. But in general, there are two types of calling plans. There's domestic calling plan and an international and domestic calling plan. Each calling plan provides an allocation of minutes, which can be used within that particular billing cycle. The number of minutes varies by the origin of country, where calling plans are available, but within the UK, this ranges from a light user, 120 minutes, all the way up to 1,200 minutes. You also have the option of adding 600 minutes on for international calling. Now, obviously, there is a cost increase for the more minutes you have on the plan, but it's pretty straightforward at this point. However, within each Office 365 tenant, the combined number of calling minutes are pooled by a country or region, and then by calling plan type. When the monthly calling minutes cap for the tenant is reached, the calling plan service will be suspended for the remainder of the month, and your employees won't be able to make outbound calls, except for emergency calling. So once the allocated minutes are exhausted within a specific pool, users won't be able to make any outbound calls at all. How does Microsoft let you avoid that from happening? That's where communication credits come in, and they're designed to be an overflow to stop this from happening straight away. This means that as soon as a pool allocation is exhausted, ongoing charges are based on a pay-as-you-go basis, but only as long as you keep the credits topped up. So that's a little bit about the plan options. From a phone system perspective, phone system provides some features. They provide auto attendant, call queues, voicemails, and general call control features which you would expect. But it's functional rather than dynamic. Microsoft provide API capability for third parties, which can be used to add capability and enhance functionality, although you are restricted to the availability of those solutions. Teams recording is available, but in a limited capacity. So if we look at the constraints and the value for money, what does that actually represent? Well, it's fair to say calling plans do suffer from coverage and number issues. At this moment, calling plans are only available in 10 countries. Plus, it's been quite a while since Microsoft had added a new country or region. numbering is also limited. So, for example, there's not all the area codes in the UK aren't available. You may find your options limited. But in a wider context, for those looking to move from transitioning from an existing PBX to MS Teams, are there key features going to be available from an MS Teams solution which uses phone system and calling plan? They may already be invested in a Teams environment, but are there existing services that need to be retained for, say, contractual reasons? We'll see how direct routing can help with that shortly. And then looking directly at value. A business familiar with a per voice channel or a per user cost with an existing supplier, well, they'll find the calling plans expensive. For UK-based SMEs, less than 10 users, a calling plan option can be an acceptable solution. But once you begin to scale up from those 10 users, it becomes less and less attractive. And eventually you'll be asking the question, does my call usage justify the amount I'm spending on my calling plans? Telephony resellers are able to offer much more attractive per user price points, and normally they have a much generous minutes bundle attached with it. Now, when we're talking about value for money and constraints, communication credits are provided as a safety net. However, it also raises the question of what happens if the admin responsible for the communication credit is away and not able to top up. In that event, if it runs out, your employees are not going to be able to make outbound calls. It increases unnecessary risk. So, calling plans have their place. We can see that. But direct routing as a service can offer a lot more for a lot less in both functionality and cost. So let's take a look at direct routing. So I think the first question is a fair question to ask is, why direct routing, and can we develop it in-house and go it alone? Well, yes, you can. Within your organisation, you will obviously need the technical capability. But though SBC ownership might sound like a simple solution, there are many aspects to consider. Do you want or have the resource to spend configuring SBC, hosting it, ensuring high availability? If you're used to a cloud model, even hosting one yourself in AWS, for example, it might be more of an undertaking than anticipated. And then there's managing your carrier relationships. Will one carrier provide all your requirements, both domestic and international? Finally, a very good working knowledge of PowerShell is required to make the solution work. So it's easy to see that the costs, complexity, and resource knowledge can often outweigh the benefits. However, using a third party to provide your direct routing and SIP connectivity all in one provides a simpler solution for most businesses. Here at ZapAppy, we've been involved in direct routing since its inception. We've done the hard work, so you can not only benefit from our experience and current functionality, but any future developments within our portal. So what does direct routing as a service actually deliver? So our solution is a Microsoft certified solution. We have got 2 session border controllers, which are audio codes, and that's within our highly resilient network housed in AWS. We're a carrier aggregator, so we can provide UK standard, non-geographic, free phone and virtual mobile numbers, as well as international numbers that are available in 167 countries. So this means that our resellers can offer direct routing as a service with full UK and global coverage. We're really proud of our management portals. We've developed a reseller portal and a self-service portal for customers who can provision and manage their own team tenants, adding or removing users or numbering if and when they require. Especially useful for changes out of hours or over the weekend. We strive to give complete control and granularity to our products and services, including direct routing, so that it's available via our portal or via a rich API function. The portal contains controls for fraud prevention or call spend and the usual white and black listings. And then dynamic routing is a product that provides the capability to manipulate call flows at a network level. It's especially useful when you need some intelligent call decisions being made real time. So our automation allows us to provide services to customers 24/7 without human intervention. For direct routing, we saw PowerShell could be a block to adaptation, so we created PowerShell automation tools, and we called it AutoShell for configuring the tenant. This importantly moves provisioning from being a technical competence to purely administrative role. And if you'd like to learn more about how we achieve this, there's a really good blog from Ben Merrills on our website about the journey we took and how we developed that. Now, anybody who's been involved in telephony will always know that porting is also a massive risk. It's inconsistent at the best of times, let's say. So when porting from a telephony provider, customers are able to utilise our automated porting process. Once the port has been approved within their portal, not only can they see that number, but they can allocate it to a Teams user and sync to their tenant. Once the port completes, the number is automatically recognised and confirms that traffic is flowing. So it removes not only potential downtime, but provides reassurance. So let's talk a little bit about hybrid. As mentioned earlier, businesses have been forced into change, and they may be looking at a phased transition to cloud-based collaboration. This is really relevant when a customer needs to retain, say, part of a legacy PBX. They've got a contact centre on site, or they may still be running ISDN. So how do they successfully phase that transition? Direct routing hybrid is a great way to bring together the best of both worlds. Using our hybrid gateway, businesses can, for example, have all employees within a Teams environment, but split their workforce into Teams users with or without a phone system license, and either directly connect to on-site equipment, as usual, or as a full Teams user, utilize a hybrid gateway for, say, for example, their existing ISDN lines. And of course, once they migrate to a cloud-based contact center or move to SIP connectivity, they simply move to a more standard direct routing setup. Now, if you'd like to learn more about this, we'd be happy to speak to you in our booth. Ben actually went through a hybrid versus PBX talk, so you'll be able to actually access that online with your CommsVerse details. I'd really recommend it if it's something you're looking at, because it's a really worthwhile talk. Finally, well, let's move on to our cost model. We are unashamedly wholesale. Our resellers benefit from wholesale core pricing and usage model. So what does that actually mean for a customer? Well, it means that we provide competitive rates, so our resellers can use our pricing models to tailor their own products and pricing. They're simply not reselling a packaged product, and those benefits are passed on to the customer. So we've looked at calling plans, we've looked at direct routing, and we looked at what they can both offer. So how do we look at it when we compare the solutions? So first of all, let's talk about OpEx. Well, we've seen that calling plans will suffer against direct comparisons to direct routing as a service. I mentioned in the previous slide that our resellers have the ability to build their own products and services, and it's not unusual for user pricing to be at least 40% cheaper in comparison to calling plans, while actually providing larger or sometimes unlimited UK minimum minute pools. From a provisioning perspective, this is an area actually where Teams can show some proficiency. Teams can utilize PowerShell, which is, for those who don't know, is a shell framework developed by Microsoft for repetitive jobs, such as allocating numbers to users. But again, this requires that technical competence to be able to do that. Choosing the right supplier with direct routing with the automation can remove the specialist knowledge that is required. And the ability to self-service without any technical knowledge required is a big positive in the management of a solution. From a perspective, by going through a reseller, you're looking at subject matter experts. They know about their telephony systems, they know about SIP. Microsoft is more geared towards self-help, and although support is there, it's really a knowledge-based system. And what happens when a business is looking at a solution and they have a list of must-haves? So, phone system provides basic features, which we would expect from a cloud solution. And as usual, Microsoft have provided a platform that expects and welcomes third-party integration to build a complete solution via API, things like Contact Center. And there's a number of our sponsors at CommsVerse who actually provide these services. But what direct routing can do is not only enhance the phone system feature set by bringing comprehensive numbering, dynamic functions and management, but also work in tandem with those third-party applications. And with hybrid, it can help with that existing infrastructure, bringing it into the solution during that transitional period. You're most likely to hit more of your must-haves and your should-haves with a complete solution. And finally, scale. So we've touched several times already on the issues that Microsoft calling plans have with international destinations. But think about it from a scale perspective, from an SME turning into an enterprise. Do you really want to be managing those pool of plans, which only relate to individual plans, management of numbers? The scale, as it comes up from a calling plan perspective, starts to add complexity. The availability of numbers in Microsoft is problematic, whereas with direct routing as a service, you're dealing with full number and global coverage. So compare the actual two solutions. So what I thought I'd do is just give you a case study of a company that we discussed. You've got UK-based headquarters. There's 300 users, the majority in the UK, but some are international. So they would require UK and international numbering. They just have standard call queues, and they have their own support, so self-service preferable. They have a caller ID requirement though. The UK agents do call different countries, and when they call different countries, they'd like a presence to show as a local number for that particular country. So if a UK agent calls to France, for example, they would like a local French number to be displayed as caller ID. And finally, they'd like to look at PSTN call recording for UK HQ. So this is a real world example that we dealt with. So let's look how the decision making happened. So first of all, let's deal with the locations and the amount of users. Well, from a reseller perspective, we can provide complete location coverage with direct routing, with numbering, and offer a single per user OPEX model. It made things simple. From a service perspective, both options are quite viable. There's functionality there for both. But with direct routing as a service, the self-service portal allowed more granularity and helped their internal support teams. Queues were functional within phone system and could be used and more than adequate. Direct routing can actually complement that. And then there was the bespoke caller ID requirement, something that was a little bit beyond where the calling plans could achieve. So how did we achieve this? We achieved this via dynamic routing. What we had to do was provide real-time caller ID solution. So what do we need? We need access to numbering within the relevant countries. We have that. And we needed complete control because it's going to be real-time call flow. We had that. So we customized the SIP flows to show a local number against the number dialed. If you want any more information about how we did that, we'd be happy to have a chat in the booth and give you a couple of examples of how dynamic routing works. But it's really a powerful tool in your arsenal. And finally, PSTN call recording was achieved via our ZapHappy product range with access to recordings and an audit trail. So there's a real world example there of how direct routing can not only enhance the team's UC environment, but with a little bit of tailoring, it's very hard for that to be achieved with a black box environment of teams and calling plans. So, what's my tips for looking for a supplier? Well, by all means, if you want to go down an invitation route, that's fine, but I would definitely recommend a certified solution as a prerequisite. And also look for a solution that takes heavy lifting out of implementation and management. Everybody likes zero touch. Everybody knows that it's hard to administer users. So look for those automation keys that really make things simple. If you're looking at a slow transition, then find a supplier who can provide the solution which helps you move from your current state to your future state. Hybrid does that job really, really well. And I would strongly recommend reviewing your core data. We always recommend this with the customers because it actually provides you with valuable information on what your usage is and then how your business communicates every day. And that is something that's really important when looking about how to handle what your users are going to be doing and what bundles are right for you. So, to summarise, we started off today to talk about why direct routing could benefit more than calling plans. But why? Well, first of all, it can hand you the complete solution, provides a better opportunity to tailor that solution, and it helps you get to your future state vision. You've got scale. There's UK and global coverage with consistent user OPEX models. You also have control because direct routing as a service provides you with more granularity and control over your unified communications. So what does your business see as a benefit? very simply, more for less. Overall, your direct routing as service gives you a lot more for less, directly compared with calling plan costs. It gives you hybrid. It enables you to bridge the gap to enable your customer base to commit to the UC while still retaining existing equipment. And finally, it gives you automation. And that automation is key because that allows you to self-service and it doesn't require you to have that specialist knowledge. So I hope that's been useful. We'd always welcome feedback, what you found useful, what you didn't find so useful. And as I say, I'll hand back to Laura and ask if there's any questions. Otherwise, I'm happy to pop into the breakout area if anyone wants a bit more of a personal conversation.
Great, thanks, Pete. We did have one question. It is, does direct routing allow scope for IT companies or resellers to make extra revenue through in or out of bundle calls?
Sorry, just say again, Laura, because you cut out halfway through that question. Sorry. Can you hear me, Laura?
Yeah, the question was, does direct routing allow scope for IT companies or resellers to make extra revenue through in or out of bundle calls?
Yeah, it does, because you have various features and add-ons that you can put through that. So our resellers normally have a per user model, which basically it means that you can bundle calls through, but also you can actually look at different models for the particular customer. So you can go for voice channels or usage models as well. As an IT support vendor, then obviously you can, and if you're a license, supply Microsoft licenses, that's obviously another revenue stream. But from a bundle perspective, what I've seen and what our main partners provide is a per user cost model. And then on top of that, say, for example, if your customers are requiring hardware, those can actually be put through as well.
Great. And then there's the second question. Can I move from direct routing to a calling plan?
Yes, you can. It's basically the usual. You'll just basically have to audit through the Microsoft plan. What will happen is that you will have to put your number into Microsoft, because obviously if you're using direct routing, you'll be using a telephony provider. That telephony provider will have that particular number. Microsoft supports porting, so you will just literally port your number into Microsoft and allocate a calling plan to that particular number once you completed that particular port.
Okay, those were the only questions that came in. But if there are any further questions, like Pete said, he'll be in the breakout area and the link is there on the screen as well as in the Q&A area. So go ahead and join him directly following this session. And if you would please take a moment to complete the survey, that would be excellent. Thank you very much. And thanks, Pete, for a great session. And have a great rest of your day.
Thanks ever so much. Thanks, everybody.